Hello and welcome to this masterclass in how to find and maintain your business mojo with me, Mark Terrell from the Motivated Business Club. Really looking forward to this hour just to go through how you can find your mojo. It's important to make sure that you are understanding how that mojo is affected and how you can make sure that you are taking action to make sure your mojo, which is very much linked to motivation, is maintained. We'll show you how to do that. If you are watching this on, obviously if you're joining me live, then please feel free to comment, ask questions, and I will answer them at the end of the session. If you catch this on a replay on YouTube, then feel free to, again, leave comments and questions if you want to. And again, I will reply to you as soon as I can. So I want to make sure that I'm finished in an hour. So without further ado, I'm just going to crack on. So let me share with you the first of my little sections. I've broken it down into 4 sessions. First of all, let's look at the overview of what we're going to talk about. So my aim today is to show you how to find and maintain your business mojo. I'm going to show you how you can work with me if you'd like to, and also answer any questions. And if you have any, and as I mentioned, they'll be done at the end, or if it's on a replay, then I will make sure that I do them as and when you catch the replay. So let's have a look at what you'll need. You'll need maybe a piece of paper and a pen just to take some notes down. But remembering that there is going to be a recording of this. So if you've registered, then you'll get the link to watch the recording at your leisure. So if you're one of these people like me that likes to just to watch rather than make notes and then maybe go back and make some notes afterwards, then you'll be able to do that. So the overview of what we're going to be talking about here. First of all, I'm going to talk about why motivation is important and why we don't pay enough attention to it. And that's very much linked to that mojo that I've been talking about. Then I'm going to show you how you can identify, describe and measure motivation. And then we're going to go through a quick case study of one of my clients of success they've had by understanding what motivates them and how they can change their business because of their knowledge of their motivations. And as I mentioned, how we can work together if you'd like to. So who am I? I'm Mark Terrell. My background is 30 years in the retail business. There's me just out of school, me on the left there, my dad in the middle, and my older brother Richard on the right. And this is the sort of thing I used to do, merchandise, a retail store. And I worked my way up through that business until I was, you could say, head honcho in charge. And that's where I've lost my mojo for my business. That's the key, because essentially I was doing all the things that didn't really give me any sort of motivation. And so that drained my mojo. And I lacked the things, or didn't do the things that I really wanted to do in that business, which would have topped my mojo up and made me feel a bit better about the whole scenario. These are my 2 daughters. I'm very proud of them. They're doing very well in their careers. That's my partner when we were away last year, and that's St Mark's Square in Venice. Last year I did a bit of a challenge, 2,000 burpees in July. Managed to crack it. We work it out. It's about 70 a day. So it was quite an undertaking. Found time to do it all and recorded them. So you actually can see all the sessions that I did still on my website. I've created essentially the Reluctant Leader Academy, which is my website. And all the things I do on there, my courses and all my stuff is on my website. And the Motivated Business Club. And the Motivated Business Club came out of me writing this book, Motivated, which covers the 3 elements of why we should take motivation seriously. It's about you, the role you have in a business, and understanding how you can get the best from your team. If we're not already connected, then I'll leave that on the screen just a short while so that you can scan that and hopefully connect with me on LinkedIn, where I share most of my content. And just a bit about what I do. As I mentioned, I sort of fell out of love with that retail business. There was in times when I was really motivated in that business, but other times I weren't. And I was more in the sad face in the middle there, the biggest cog in the machine, and didn't want to be there really. And what I do now is help my clients to make sure they don't do the same as I did, and make sure that they become a motivated leader, not a reluctant leader, by becoming, on the right hand side, being the oil that keeps the machine running, as opposed to the biggest cog. So from my book, I created a 7-step process, which is all linked to motivation. And the first step you'll see on the left hand side there is mirror. And once we put up the mirror and understand not just about motivation, but also about our behavior style, then that helps us to make better decisions on the right role for ourselves in the business. And what is it that we really want to get from our business? And essentially, we need to make sure that we feel good about our business and the role that we have in it. And the way we feel really does affect the way we perform. So making sure that we're connected to the things that will make us feel good about our business is essential. Just a quick, the people that I work with, I work with business owners and directors. I work with team leaders and managers, and I also work with coaches, HR and recruitment specialists with the Motivational Maps products that I use. So that's a quick run through of what we're going to be doing today, and a little bit about me. So just bear with me while I just change over the slides, and so we can start talking about the real nitty-gritty about what we're here to talk about tonight, and that is about understanding. I've already mentioned motivation and the importance of it. So I think the first thing we should do is to just run through what motivation is and why it's important. Technology running a bit slow tonight. So I think that's now ready to go. Here we go. So what is motivation? Well, motivation is two things. It's our motive, and it's also our action. So when we join those two together, motive and action become motivation as a word. There's a word for that. I can't remember what it is now. Anyway, motive is essentially our reason to do something. And the action is the thing that we decide to do. So this is where it's important. And it's just where a lot of people get a bit confused about motivation, because essentially we don't do anything unless we are motivated to do it, unless we're forced to, that is. And especially if we're running our own business, then we have to be aware of the things that give us are motivating and be aware that things that aren't. And to make sure that we're doing as much as possible that other things that we do get motivated by. And as I say, everyone should take responsibility for their motivation. It's the same as taking responsibility for our fitness. We can't just run a marathon once and say now we're fit. We need to make sure that we're taking consistent action to make sure that we're fit, and the same, we need to take consistent action to make sure that we are maintaining our motivation. So there are three elements that contribute to our performance. The first is our direction, and that's if we are a business owner, the direction that we're taking our business. The skills are the next thing, where we need to have the knowledge, know-how, and the ability to do what it is that our business is set up to do. So that's obviously essential. And the third element, not surprisingly, is motivation. It's understanding the place that plays, making sure that we don't disregard it, because a lot of people don't pay enough attention. And once you know the three elements, and you can take care of all three. I say it's not just about one thing, it's about making sure you've got those three things in, and taking care of all of them. And these all interact with one another. The motivations affect the direction we go, and also the skills that we want to learn. And so all these things are all always moving. But what we really need to think about are these three things. It's the same thing, but in different words. The what is what we decide we want to do with our business. And the how is how we do it, and that's the link to the skills and know-how. And the why is our motivation. Why are we doing this? Why does it matter? Why does it matter to us? Why does it matter to the team? Why does it matter for the overall organisation? And if we can think about those three elements each time, then we're going to be in a much better place and put ourselves in a good position with regards to the success we're looking for. So, as I've said, it's easy to lose motivation, and we don't really know what's important to us if we don't know what's important to us, that is, as I've mentioned. So what we need to do is think about what it is and how we are feeling at the moment. So a little bit of a quick exercise for you to think about, if I've got that piece of paper that I suggested, is give yourself a score out of 10. How good are you at what you do? So this is the skills question. Out of 10, how good at you are you at what you do? And think about the experience you've got, the skills you've got, all the know-how you have with regards to what you do. And then, not surprisingly, I'm going to ask you to ask yourself how motivated you are. So both those scores out of 10. Once you've got those two in your head, you can share them if you want to in the comments. But once you've got the two figures, you can use those two figures as I'm going to show you now. So we've got S with the skills, M for motivation, which is going to give us a performance indicator. So out of 10, what did you give yourself? I'll give an example. In this instance, this person scores themselves 9 out of 10 for their skills, scores themselves 6 out of 10 for their motivation, which gives them a performance indicator of 54. And that's not particularly good, is it, really? Because we're only just about over 50% there. Because we are talking about percentage here. 10 times 10 is going to be 100. So any score less than that is going to be a percentage. So that's not great. So we can see now straight away how if we change that and make increase our motivation, understanding what motivates us, we can make quite a dramatic increase in that performance indicator by making our motivation 9 out of 10, or say making it, understanding what motivates us, so we feel 9 out of 10 motivated, then our performance is likely to be much better, from just over 50 to over 80. And that's essentially where we want everyone to be, operating from a high skills and knowledge point of view with high motivation. Those two elements being the key to our individual motivation, putting aside what the actual business does. So the question is, what did you score highest? Did you score your skills or motivation highest? No trick question here. Think about it. And maybe skills is where you need to pay more attention. I don't know. But I'm obviously going to be talking more about motivation now. But both elements are important. So make sure you're paying enough attention to both, so that those two elements are working in your favour. So that's a quick run through with regards to what motivation is, and how important it is and where it fits in with the three elements. And like I said, most people don't pay enough attention to motivation. So if you aren't aware of what motivates you, the next section is we're going to talk about a way where we can identify what it is that motivates us. So this has been probably the biggest problem with motivation up until this point, is we can't really identify motivation. We can't really describe it. So that's essentially what we need to do. So we need to, let's fire this up. Just bear with me a second. Technology Going a bit slow today. Chuck, 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 chuck. Probably I've got so many things open on my iPad here. Right, here we go. Right, so what we need to do is what we need to have is the ability to identify, describe, and measure motivation. So I'm going to introduce you to motivational maps. So motivational maps gives us those abilities. It gives us a way to describe motivation. It gives us a way to measure it. And when you measure something and are able to measure it, then you're able to make sure that you are improving it and taking action around it. So motivational maps, what are they about? Well, it's a 10-minute online questionnaire, just about 10 minutes. Might take a little bit longer, but 10 to 12 minutes essentially, which identifies the motivation. And then we then have the ability then to describe the motivations for everybody that's taken the questionnaire. So as you see on the screen, there are 9 motivations, and I'm going to quickly run through them for you. So there are 3 groups of 3 relationship, 3 achievement, and 3 growth motivators. So let's go back to the relationship and just talk you through what they are. The relationship motivators are the defender, which is the drive, or the drive for motivation for seeking security, predictability, and stability. Then there's the friend that seeks friendship, belonging, and relationships at work. And then there's the star. The star is the motivation that seeks recognition, respect, and social esteem. Moving over to the achievement motivators, the director. The director is the motivator that seeks power, influence, and control over people and resources. The builder is the motivation that seeks money, material satisfaction, and above average earning and average living standards. And then the expert is the drive that seeks knowledge, mastery, and specialization. And then finally, the growth motivators. The creator is the motivator that seeks innovation and wants creative potential. The spirit is the motivation that seeks freedom, autonomy, and control over their own decision making. And then finally, the searcher, and by no means least, the searcher is the motivation for or seeks motivation. The motivation that seeks meaning, make a difference, and doing worthwhile things. So all these 9, we have all these 9, because as I'm going through you might have pick out a few that actually you think, oh yeah, that's important to me, and some others maybe not so much. So as I mentioned, we're all a combination of all 9. So what we need to do is make sure find out which ones are the most important and give them all a value. So you can see here, all 9 motivators are given a value. The one with the highest value on the left-hand side are down to the lowest value on the right-hand side. And then it allows us to know which motivators are the most important, which one is the least, and then we can see on a decreasing scale which ones and which order they come for us. And so we can then pay attention to the things that are most important to us. So in this case, the searcher. So this person wants to make a difference. So the things that they should be looking for is plenty of feedback and definitely being connected to the outcome that they are working towards. They're also driven by the expert, so knowledge, expertise. They want to feel that they are knowledgeable and specialist in what they do. And also the builder, so we look at the top 3. The builder, so this person wants to feel that they're being well rewarded materially for the work they do. And also it's worth mentioning this person, because it's a score over 20, also wants freedom, autonomy for the spirit motivator. So wants to feel that they have freedom and autonomy over the way they work. But it's also really important to pay attention to our lowest motivator, because that can be sometimes our Achilles heel. It gets in our way. It's the thing that we're not paying enough attention to. So in this case, this person's lowest motivator is the star. So the star is the drive, and the motivation that that's what seeks respect and social esteem. And one of the things that I would be looking at if this is a business owner would be their attitude towards marketing. Are they actually marketing themselves? Is anybody actually noticing them? Because it's quite easy to have a business that is the greatest thing on earth, but nobody knows about it. So unfortunately, because of that, the business isn't doing very well. So that might be one of the Achilles heels for this business owner. So it's not just about understanding or doing the things that motivate us, but sometimes we need to be aware of the things that we're paying the least attention to, which might be the biggest learning for us from our motivational map. So from our map, we also get what we call our 22 numbers. So as you've already seen, you get scores for each of the 9 motivators, but you also get what we call a PMA score, which is essentially a fulfillment level. So not only do we find out which ones are most important, we also find out what motivations are being met or fulfilled, and the overall fulfillment level, which is the PMA result there on the left-hand side. So we can use this to help individuals, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you an example of one of my clients who I've been able to help with regards to the direction their business. They were doing okay, but by understanding what it is that motivates them, they were able to make much better focused decisions on really what it is that they want, and also what they don't want, to make sure that make sure their business is working for them and their motivations are helping them along with regards to, and they're being fulfilled in their business. So there we are, a quick run through of how when we can identify motivation, describe it, and give it a value, we can then decide, well, what we're going to do about that information, what needs to improve. This, because businesses are all about continual improvement. If we lose sight of the fact that we need to improve, then that's when things start going a bit pear-shaped and a bit sort of in the wrong direction. If we're not improving, then chances are we're probably moving in the opposite direction. So we can use this information to help us to make better decisions, as I've mentioned. So I'm going to give you a quick run through of how one of my clients has used his motivational maps to basically transform the way he acts in his business, and the results that he's getting are quite remarkable, to be honest. So let me talk you through these results. Firstly, what are they telling us? Firstly, so first of all, we can see that his top motivator is spirit. So the thing that he wants more than anything is freedom, autonomy, and to be able to make his own choices, which you think, well, his own business, he should have those choices. But it's easy to fall into the trap where you're not actually making your own choices. You are going along with the flow, and it's almost as if you're the business. You're not running the business; it's running you. So we know that this wasn't going particularly well for him, because, as I mentioned, the PMA score here is an indication of how fulfilled he was with regards to that motivation, and this pretty much indicates that he was hardly feeling any freedom whatsoever. So I'll tell you a little bit more about what he was actually doing and what was actually happening in a second. But I'll pick out a few other things. So his number 2 motivator is the expert. So the next thing, most important thing for him after freedom is to be a specialist and have knowledge and specialism and know-how around what he does. And the PMA score here was 7, which is okay, but still room for improvement. So I wasn't really feeling that was really being particularly well met. And then the third motivator is the searcher. So he wants to feel that he's making a difference, doing something worthwhile. So again, we can look at that in regards to the PMA score. 6 out of 10 was also not great. We need those scores to be at least 8 to feel that they are being well met. And ideally, as I've showed in the example, 9 would be the ideal. And obviously 10 is an option as well. And so the top 3 motivators which is what contributes to this figure. And you can see 33% is his overall PMA score for those top 3 motivations. So not particularly good, obviously, in a place. And actually, this is where he was in the zone where action needed to be taken. If action wasn't taken, then ultimately nothing was going to be good out of this situation, because he wasn't motivated, and we can only go for a certain amount of time with our motivations not being met. It's worth mentioning there that our motivations, we can operate at a high level without our motivations being met for a short amount of time. But if for the long term, which most businesses are for the long term, we can't maintain that, and that's when we get instances of burnout and all the other things that happen to business owners when they aren't able to maintain the energy that they need for their business. And essentially, that's what we're talking about here: maintaining energy, mojo, energy, all linked to motivation. So you can see here, there's lots of room for improvement. And also there's some other scores. All these scores are quite low as well. Friend is an interesting one. He didn't really feel he was connected. He wasn't feeling he was belonging, so he felt a bit isolated as well. And also his lowest motivator is the star motivator, which was all about is all about, as I mentioned, getting noticed, and it wasn't something that he was seeking. And I think that was also playing a part in how his business was being perceived and how successful he was having. The amount of success he was having in his business. So you can see there is some more information that we can pick out here, but you can see there's already loads to go on there to help someone start to make more of a conscious decision around, well, what is it that I really want from my business, and how can I get it? That's the important thing. How can I change my behaviors? Because these are all about behaviors, to get more of what I want. So what did he do? So obviously I'm not going to divulge any details that would identify him, but his business I would describe was a very sort of general business, very non-specialist, and it was reliant on a lot of outside contractors. So he was feeling that he wasn't getting much freedom, because he was relying on other people who were letting him down. All things were going wrong. He was having to work at weekends, didn't feel they had any control over his time at all. And so that was what was affecting that spirit motivator not being met at all, and obviously the lack of overall motivation. He also didn't feel that he was an expert in what he did. He, like I mentioned, it was fairly sort of a general business that did sort of general things which weren't seen as high value, and they had quite a lot of competition in what he does. So again, that was obviously making him work harder, because there wasn't a lot of margin available. And then the searcher was connected to the amount of difference he was making, again, because it was a bit of a business that was all consuming. It was feeling that he was working hard and not really making much of a difference. He didn't have much connection to the good that his business was making, and that was probably a lot connected to that top motivator not being met. And also, I think the friend motivator, the lack of connection and belonging was affecting him, being the sort of person he was, being a person that valued being connected being part of a team, I suppose. That's basically because although he was moving towards freedom and autonomy, he also felt he wanted to belong somewhere as well. So what did he do? So what he decided to do was he decided to drop all the low value work that he could do quite easily, but it was low value and low margin, and it was the part of his business that was causing him to spend those weekends catching up. It was giving him all the headaches because he was reliant on outside contractors. So he ditched that side of his business and really knuckled down on becoming a specialist in one area of his business. So there's an awful lot of talk around business when you set up to be as niche and as focused as you can possibly be so that you become the go-to person. So I would say that he has developed into the go-to person for what he does. And so he's become a lot easier to refer because he talks only about one thing. What he does is high value because there's not a lot of competition. There is obviously some, but not as much as in the sort of general business that he was creating previously. And so because of that, he can charge higher prices. And he is finding now that he's not working at weekends. He's not working nowhere near as many hours total. And he's able to run two businesses which are quite different, but combined they satisfy his top motivators and all the other things that are important to him. And allow him to perform at his best. That's the key. And so he's able to make better choices. That's essentially what happened here. Better choices with regards to what it is that he really wants to get from his business. And when you can do that, you can stop wasting time doing things that are, just not going to fulfill you. And one of the things that we can easily fall into, one of the biggest traps, is the thinking just because we can do something, we should do it ourselves. Even though, we have the ability and we've done it many times before, actually, sometimes we need to say to ourselves, actually, I can do it, but I'm not the right person to do it. And if I carry on doing this, then that's all I'm going to be able to do going forward. And that's not an ideal position to be in. So there's a little bit of a run through of how a motivational map can actually help a business owner to really focus in on what it is the business should be giving him, the role in his business. And interestingly, that star motivator, he has quite a lot of people that support him with regards to marketing. He doesn't do the marketing himself, but realizes that it needs to happen. So that marketing element, which is very much linked to that star motivator because it's about getting recognition for you and your business. He has other people doing that for him. So he's realised that he probably would never get around to it. And if he did it, probably wouldn't do it that well. So he's found some experts that help him with regards to that. So he's got the team around him to do the things that he doesn't really enjoy and that doesn't fulfill him. So there we are. That's a quick run through, a little case study of what difference it can make when you are feeding those motivators and making sure that those things that are important to you are, boosting your energy and allowing you to perform at your best. And some of these decisions and some of these changes can be quite small. But it's about being conscious about the things that you need to do. And sometimes when you think about it, when do you actually just do something for yourself, which actually is designed to motivate you above all else, and that doesn't do anything else apart from motivate you? The things that my client in this instance needs to probably do a bit more of is make sure that he gets plenty of feedback to feed that searcher motivator, to make sure that he's feeling he's making a difference and being connected to the outcome, that he's helping the problem that he's helping to solve. So it's ongoing, and he's still realizing how important it is to keep track on motivations, and motivations do change over time because our circumstances change, the things that we want change, and also we're as human beings we're evolving all the time, and we are as we progress, then our aspirations change. So again, that's linked to motivations and what we want in the future. So I said that I will be sharing with you how you could work with me. So just to give you some idea of how all this works. Again, just waiting for the technology to catch up because it's running a bit slow tonight. So there we are. So we're up and ready to go. So I'm just going to go through with you a way that one of the ways that you can work with me. It's not the only way, but this is just focused on if you're an individual and you think that your mojo needs, and you need to find it. You need to find what your mojo, and also learn how to maintain it and make sure that's an ongoing process. So what I call this is actually the thing we need to think about is how to make a motivational action plan. And that is a fairly simple process, actually. I've broken it down into 4 steps. Firstly, there is an online course I've created, which I've called How to Stay Energized at Work. It's 5 modules, quite short sessions, less than 10 minutes each. So you can complete that in under an hour easily. And it talks you through the elements to think about. Some of the things with one of the exercises we did tonight with giving yourself a score out of 10 for motivation and your skills is one of the things we cover, but there's lots more in the course. So that's the first step. How to Stay Energized at Work course, which is online and you can do it in your own time. And included in that course is you get the opportunity to complete your own motivational maps, which I've mentioned is about a 10 to 12 minute exercise, which then will identify the motivations that are important to you, gives them a score. And then once you have the motivational map, you can then book a 30-minute debrief session with me, which will help you to go through the details, go through your situation, and link your motivations to your daily activities and help you to make sense of it all so that you actually start to make that action plan into something that you are going to use going forward. And then as an extra, if you want it, and I'll explain how you pay the extra if you want it, is you can have an optional follow-up coaching call after your debrief session at any time after you've completed it, to follow up and see what actions you're doing well, things that you might not be doing well, and really keep you on track and accountable to make sure motivation is something that you're paying attention to and making an important part of your daily routine. So how does this all work then? So there's 2 options on an individual basis. So first of all, the individual on its own, which doesn't include the coaching session at the end, is a 149. So that's the online course, the motivational map, and the debrief session, which is the individual option. And then we have the individual plus option, which includes the coaching call afterwards and follow up. And that coaching session included is 295. That coaching session is recorded and it's uploaded into your portal, which would include your copy of the online course. So you'll always be able to refer back to it. And also in between sessions that you're able to check in with me and ask me questions. And obviously anytime you want to pick up the phone, anything that's connected to the session we had, then I'm here to answer any questions you have. So they're the individual options. You might be thinking, well, it's not just me, there's other people in the organisation. How does that work? Well, on my website, you'll find all the details about how you can buy a session for your team there's options there for a team of 2 and how you can expand it out to, a team of 4, and expand it out from there. So you can have the option to complete motivational maps of individuals only, or you can also add in a team map where we combine all the individual motivational maps, give a team map, and that session is an extra, but really powerful in that you will understand what you, if you're a team leader, manager, leader in your business, how you can enhance the motivation of everyone in your team, and not obviously forgetting that you need to make sure that you're motivating yourself. So I do stress that it's not a point, it's not about you taking responsibility for everybody's motivation. That's, as I've mentioned earlier, everyone should take their own responsibility. But you have if you're leading a team in any way, then you have a part to play. And your team motivational map will tell you the things that you should be concentrating on, the things that you should be doing to make sure that your team are keeping motivated. And that is on my website, and I will put all the details in the comments for you to pick that up at your leisure. So there we are. So it's a fairly quick run through. I've tried to keep it short and sweet so that you've got lots of value there. You understand how motivation fits in, why it's important to maintain it, and with regards to your mojo, I think mojo is a lot of people understand what that feels like when we are lacking mojo. We're not generally in the greatest place. We're not in a place where we are definitely not operating from the best place, and also probably not making the best decisions for ourselves and the business from that position either. So it's really important to maintain that energy so we've got plenty of mojo to allow us to perform at our best. So if you have any questions, you catch this on replay, then please don't hesitate to leave some comments, and I will answer those questions. And also all the details about all what I've talked about is on my website. You'll be able to catch up with that. Lots more information on there. My next free webinar masterclass will be on there. Any other back things that I've done in the past. And you can really understand how motivation plays such a massive part in not just in your success, but actually how you feel about everything in your business. If you feel good about yourself, feel good about your business, that has a massive knock-on effect with the way that you perform, the way you act, the way you just show up. So it's really important, and I've had such some fantastic results with regards to my clients. I've shared one story tonight, but there are many that I've had that have really made a difference. And one that I've just sprung to mind, where somebody was really not feeling that important with regards to their position in the business that they are working in, and just by making one decision and actually taking note of the feedback that they were getting, it allowed them to reconnect to the difference they were really making, and that was quite an eye-opener, because she hadn't been sort of checking her feedback. But also it allowed her to actually realise that she was in the wrong sort of organisation. She needed to work in a smaller organisation that had a bit more connection to, and that was another thing that she could identify from our motivational map. So it's very powerful when you really delve into the information that the map's going to give us. But it's only as good as the actions that we take. And as I said, motivation is about our reason to do something. Once we know our reasons, then we have a better chance of doing the right thing for us and not going down the path of somebody else's suggestion. So there we have it. Thank you for anyone that watches this, and I will see you very soon on the next masterclass.